welcome to Leah's Handmade Crafts. I was going to do a whips and a faux video, but I decided instead to just today concentrate on the fires. I want to give you a list of different organisations where if you feel so inclined you can donate to. At the moment, the combined area of fire across southern New South Wales, northern and eastern Victoria and the ACT, which is the Australian Capital Territory, is 4 million hectares. Now that's just south of Sydney through to Victoria. That doesn't take into account the fires north of Sydney, west of Sydney. They say that an estimated 6 million hectares has burnt this fire season alone. And there's over 130 fires still burning in New South Wales. South Australia had catastrophic losses where half of an island, Kangaroo Island, was burnt out. They've got fires in South Australia, Western Australia, Queensland. The only two states that at the moment don't have any fires are the Northern Territory and Tasmania. Everywhere else there is fires. How terrifying is that? The really scary thing is that these fires started back in September, actually late August, early September, and our firefighters have been fighting fires for almost 5 months without a break. Our firefighters, our rural volunteer firefighters, these are volunteer firefighters. They're not men or women that are being paid, a stipend every day to fight fires. Finally, our government has agreed to a remuneration package of up to, I think I'm not 100% sure, but 20 days of pay for these firefighters. I'm not 100% sure, but I do know they're finally getting some remuneration. I mean, many of these volunteers own their own businesses or are employees in small businesses, and these businesses can't afford to keep paying them if they're not there. But the reality is, without these men and women, we would have lost a hell of a lot more. A hell of a lot more. We've had 18 losses of life in New South Wales to date. That's just New South Wales. That doesn't take into account loss of life in Victoria and South Australia. I live in Sydney. So where I live in Sydney is not heavily wooded. It's not heavy bush. So we're pretty lucky. We're pretty safe where we are. Where we used to live up until moving here the October before last was a bushfire prone area, and in fact we had bushfires to within 150 metres of our house only the April before last. So, and there was a fire in that area just recently that jumped containment lines and thankfully is now under control, but came close to a nursing home and a major highway, and these things are pretty scary. We've had major roads closed. We've got areas without power, without food. They're finally getting food and power through generators courtesy of the army. The lack of resources in some areas is pretty scary, but that's because they're so isolated. And these areas are areas that are in the back country, or they're in heavily wooded areas, and so it's too dangerous to go through because of the risk of eucalyptus trees falling over and hitting fire. We've already had a eucalyptus tree fall over and hit a fire truck, causing that fire truck to roll and killing 2 firefighters. they don't call these trees widowmakers for nothing, because they kill. And they have done this fire season. So, you know, there's areas where people can't go in just yet because the danger of falling trees is too great. There's areas where the army are having to go in and dig mass graves for animals, because the risk to biodiversity because of rotting carcasses is pretty high. We've got millions of animals. They're saying something in the vicinity of 480 million wildlife alone have died as a result of these fires. And that figure climbs every single day with the fires. We've had a little bit of a break the last couple of days. It's actually been a bit cooler. And so it's allowed firefighters to mop up areas and to contain areas that they hadn't been able to contain previously. We've had a little bit of rain, not a great deal, just enough that they can't backburn. So it's a catch-22. There's been a little bit of rain, but not enough to stop the fires, but enough to stop them from backburning, which helps them to contain the fires. So it's been a real catch-22. We really do need weeks of drenching rain in order for these fires to end. Because the reality is these fires will burn themselves out, or they will continue to burn until we have sufficient rain. Because we don't have sufficient water in the country at the moment to put these fires out because of the drought. Part of the biggest problem with these fires is the amount of fire load. Part of the problem with these fires is that there is a great deal of rubbish and small bushes and shrubs in the forest. So where in years gone by we would go through and we would backburn, which meant that we would burn the lower levels of the ground, which kept the forest rubbish free and clear, and if we didn't get a fire load nowadays, because we haven't been doing as much backburning for a variety of reasons, we've got an increased fire load on the ground, on the forest floor, which means that the moment that a fire goes through, it just catches and then it races up the trees. And because of the oil load in our trees, our eucalyptus leaves are a lot larger than the eucalyptus leaves anywhere else in the world. It literally explodes and it goes in a racing ball of flames right across the canopy of the forest. So we've got now national parks, which are like our rainforests, and national parks are like your forests and bush areas, and we have these massive trees that just literally explode, and as they explode, it's a racing inferno, and there's nothing can stop it. And the ferocity and the speed at which it moves is terrifying. You know, we've got firefighters who are saying these are the worst fires that they can remember in living history. That's pretty scary. And, you know, we've got a country that's just burning alive. So there are a couple of options. Mean Mothers Creations. You often hear me talking about Mean Mothers Creations. They're a group of women who banded together because they were ordering supplies from the States and they were finding it was exorbitant, the cost of the postage. So these 4 women banded together and started buying in bulk. And then they started buying for others in bulk. And they began this business where they will order American yarn or imported yarn for their customers. It usually takes 3 weeks for an order to arrive back to you once you order it, but that's okay. And these ladies order in bulk so that the cost of shipping is a lot less. I wouldn't be able to buy the American yarns that I own without these wonderful women. And honestly, their service and their attention to detail is second to none. But these beautiful ladies have banded together with a designer, a crochet designer, and this crochet designer came to them and said, I have a pack of 8 patterns, and they're amigurumi patterns. Now, I don't do amigurumi, but I'm actually buying this pack because for $15.40 Australian, all proceeds go back to the Rural Fire Service. So these women are donating everything. They're not keeping a cut of anything. They are donating every single cent that is raised is going back into fundraising for these bushfires. Every single cent. So for $15.40, you get 8 patterns. I'm not an amigurumi fan, but you know what? I'm still going to buy it. I might make a pattern or two, but I might gift the patterns to somebody else. But I can't not order these patterns because honestly every single cent goes back, and they're the only organisation that I know are doing it. But that being said, you can donate to our Rural Fire Service or the country fire associations, and I will list at the end of the video, down the bottom in the description box, I'm going to list links to every single fundraising organisation and or organisation that are assisting with these fires. That includes the Australian Red Cross, the Salvation Army, WIRES, who are a wildlife protection organisation. They're the WIRES. Just bear with me and I'll get their exact... They're the Australian Wildlife Rescue Association. And they are collecting funds to help protect and to help with the looking after of all of these wildlife. So they're getting kangaroos, they're getting koalas, they're getting wallabies, they're getting wombats, they're getting all of our natural wildlife. People are bringing them to them, and they just are looking after these animals and trying to nurse them back to life. There is a koala sanctuary up in Port Macquarie that have been working for months now as a result of the fires in the Port Macquarie area, and they're trying to they're trying to treat and they're trying to treat koalas that have been hurt in the wild. There's so much in my mind that I want to say, and I'm getting caught up and I'm losing my train of thought. But these women and men are actually looking after and protecting our koalas. There's an organisation down in Victoria, in Malakuta, who are doing the same. They're protecting and looking after the wildlife. I will try and link them down below as well. They're in Victoria. The Country Fire Association is in Victoria and and South Australia. So I will link all of these organisations in the description box below, so that if you can and you are able to, you can donate to these organisations direct. So no middleman. We have been inundated by organisations and by people who are just dropping everything and helping, and I'm blown away by the generosity of fellow Australians and of people from around the world. These fires have touched and devastated so many people. So if you're able to, and if you can help, please donate. Every little bit helps. There are people that have lost homes and were underinsured and will not be able to rebuild. There are others who will rebuild, but the devastation and mental anguish will follow them for many days and months and years ahead. The very real risk of PTSD for survivors of these fires is great. For our bush firefighters is great. You know, even our normal fire service, our fire and rescue, our paid guys, you know, they're getting stuck in fires that are terrifying. We had one crew who just barely got through a firestorm, and how they did is anybody's guess other than amazing training. So I ask you to continue to pray for us, to pray for the country, to pray that we get rain, fire drenching rain soon, drought busting rain soon, because there is so much of the country that isn't affected by fire, but it is desperately affected by drought. And I'm going to add those areas into my list as well, because they are in desperate need. You know, we've got half of the country in a debilitating drought that's killing wildlife and farm animals alike. And then we've got the bushfires in the other half of the country that are also killing farm life and also wildlife alike. And the losses to the animals are just beyond belief. In fact, there are some animals that will become extinct as a result of these fires. That's how bad they've been. So please, if you pray, please pray for us. Please pray for rain. Pray for the firefighters and for those who have been battling these fires for many, many months. Please pray for Shane hang on. Shane Fitzsimmons. He is the commander of the New South Wales Rural Fire Service. That man has led his troops for many, many exhausting months on very little sleep, and he is so amazingly thought of that his own men and women have said that they would follow him through a ring of fire, because they know that he would stand by them right to the end. And he's done an amazing job leading his troops. So please keep him in your thoughts, and also the commanders of the other fire services, because, you know, they're commanding their troops and working in unbelievable circumstances. I think I've rambled for long enough. Please donate if you can. I'd also like to thank everybody who has messaged me over the last week. Your emails are wonderful. They're just so beautiful. I've been busy actually recovering from the Christmas and New Year break. I found it a bit exhausting, and so I've needed just to regroup over the last week and a bit. So that's why I've had my head down and you haven't seen or heard from me very much. I've also been trying to process so much about what's happening with these fires. And even though I'm not immediately in the firing line of the fires, the smoke, the constant smoke haze, and also just the day-to-day news has just devastated me. And I've wanted to do this video for a couple of days now, and today was the first day that I felt that I was actually able to do it. So thank you to everyone for your emails and your lovely messages. I really, really appreciate them. I love this community so much. It's amazing how giving and kind and thoughtful every single one of you are. And I just think this crafting community that we have here are just an amazing little family. And I'm just so grateful that on the 6th of March last year, I decided to actively join this community. I had planned to do it for my birthday, which was 2 days earlier on the 4th of March, and I didn't get it done then. But I started on the 6th of March, and I haven't regretted a moment of it since. I have really enjoyed and felt uplifted and held and supported by each and every one of you, and I cannot thank you all enough. To my loyal subscribers and to my new viewers, thank you very, very much for coming along on this journey. You make every video worthwhile, and I just love being a part of your home. And to those who sent me Christmas cards, thank you so very much. You made me feel so very special. As I said, I love being a part of this community, and I know that each of you will reach out and help in any way that you can, and just your messages to those of us living in Australia, to Judy and to Ali and to Claire and to Kerry down the rabbit hole and so many others that live in the country. Those of you that have reached out to us to check that we're okay and to check that everything is, we're safe. I can't speak highly enough of how much I appreciate each and every one of you. So I just wish you all going forward a very happy and safe new year. I pray that it is a healthy, safe and prosperous one for each and every one of you, and that this year is your best year yet. So from my heart to yours, keep crocheting, keep crafting. Please be kind to yourselves and one another, and God bless.